No fear. That's how you could describe Darrell Stuckey when he stepped on the football field for the Kansas Jayhawks and the San Diego Chargers.
My wife's grandparents was like, which one was you? I was like, number 25. I'll always be number 25. She's like, no, that wasn't you. That guy was playing like he was possessed. And I'm like, huh? What do you mean? I had no idea I walked different when I was on the field. And I think my anger helped me create this fearless, character.
Stuckey was completely different when he wasn't playing football.
When I was off the field, I was voted nicest guy on the team every year.
So who is Darrell Stuckey? The nice guy or the angry guy with no fear?
When you ask me who I am and how did I get to where I am, it's a tough answer because there's no short story.
Welcome to BYU Radio's Big Stories, telling the amazing and inspiring tales from the Big 12 and beyond. I'm your host, Cleon Wall. Our episode, Darrell Stuckey, Above and Beyond.
We don't call him Darrell. I call him Stuck.
Chris Hughes is a former University of Kansas football player who now works in the Jayhawks athletic department.
If you know anything about Stuck, he's a Swiss Army knife. He can pretty much do anything and everything. It's sometimes you're just like, really? What can you not do, right? You start challenging him just to see what he can't do, which only makes him produce more stuff. He's never going to flinch in the face of adversity. He's never going to flinch in the face of someone challenging him.
Stuck's belief in himself started at an early age.
As a kid, because of Marvels or X-Men or DC Comics, I believed, if you dreamed it and you really wanted to do it, you could do it. And so for me, I was like, but the confidence we carry and our ability to focus in that moment is what sets us apart. So if I had to race somebody, it was my ability to run straight and to focus on just running that was going to make me faster, not my speed itself.
Focus would be key as Darrell navigated his family life in Kansas City. His parents divorced when he was fairly young.
For most of my life, I lived in a single-parent household with my mother. And I had a biological brother and a biological sister.
His mother eventually remarried, more children were added, and life was pretty good at home and on the playing field. Darrell excelled in both baseball and football.
I would write notes about what it took to get to where I wanted to go. I wanted to be a Division I football player. I used to write it down every day. I wouldn't make a vision board. I would journal it somewhere. I would write down something, or I would doodle something that reminded me of the goal. I would write the same thing almost every day sometimes. That was on my mind to make sure that my mind was still in the frontal lobe. They say you write it and it increases to 60% chance of doing it, but what if you write it down every day?
Stuckey was eventually offered a football scholarship to play for the University of Kansas.
I was writing a letter to my stepfather at the time, thanking him for the 7 years he had been in my life and for the man he had been, for my mother, and taking us in as his own. And then the rug gets pulled from underneath me.
Darrell's mother told him that his stepfather had abused one of his step-siblings.
My world came crashing down. It really did. And I smiled because I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for that moment in my life. And when I found that out, I thought I was on cloud 9 prior to finding out he was going to prison. They get divorced going into my senior year in high school. And that's when I learned what it really took to be a man and how much a man meant to a household, but also how the absence of a man could break a household too. I ended up leaving practice 30 minutes early to help my mother pay for my expenses before I go into college and to take some burdens off of her. But man, it changed my life forever. And the reality of that is in that moment, I told myself that regardless what happens in my life, regardless what I do, I want to be a great father and a great husband. And so my goal after that was to create a lifestyle that was conducive for me to do that. Going into college, it was heaven on earth for me. My motto was, a man who can control his own desires can conquer anything, and only I can stop me.
I am Scott Ward. I am the Director of Peak Performance for Kansas Athletics. I got to meet Darrell quite a long time ago. I was teaching sports psychology classes. That's my background. And he showed up in one of my classes. Definitely made an impact on me as an 18 or 19-year-old. I was like, oh no, this is gonna be one of those kids who has all kinds of questions and is going to take over the classroom and not let any other student participate. But it wasn't that at all. He was very inquisitive and had high-level questions about performance, and especially the mental side of competing.
When I was here at KU, when I used to stutter, I took communication studies, majored in communication studies, because I really wanted to know how to articulate myself as well as listen to others like intentionally and problem solve. I hated the idea of issues or challenges. I love solutions. And that doesn't mean I'm great at math, but it does mean I'm really good at figuring things out.
That dude was a monster when it came to being a DB.
Stuckey cracked the starting lineup at Kansas during his freshman campaign, started every game at safety his sophomore season, and was the team's second leading tackler his junior season.
That guy flies around the field. He was high intensity, high physicality, extremely smart, a real student of the game. He is somebody who truly studies everything, every angle.
Stuckey was one of 12 semifinalists for the 2009 Jim Thorpe Award for Best Defensive Back in the country. After the season, he was named Big 12 Sportsman of the Year.
One of my greatest joys is helping someone accomplish something and they didn't even know how I helped.
To win at everything that he was in, whether it was a debate in class or a foot race 100 yards, he was going to beat you, and he was going to do it with understanding that he's going to pat you on the back after he beat you.
My mentality was prepare myself for what I want, and if I'm prepared for it, then I hope God can do his part because I'm going to try to do mine.
Darrell Stuckey was drafted by the San Diego Chargers in 2010 and became a special teams savant, creating problems for receiving teams whenever he was on the field. In 2014, Stuckey signed a long-term contract with the Chargers and was eventually named to the Pro Bowl.
My ability to focus on doing something and believing that I could do it was what mattered, and that stuck with me. So I never relied on just my talent because I truly believe that anybody could do what I was doing. All right, if everybody has the same talent, then I got to work harder. So any edge I could get, I took.
Stuckey had that edge on Christmas Eve 2015. The Chargers were playing in Oakland against the Raiders.
I'm having the game of my freaking life. I got 3 tackles on special teams, I think 4 on defense, and I just made a tackle on punt inside the 5-yard line. Before he moves, I launch out at his legs, wrap his legs, and go into immediate gator roll. And I roll over. He gets up, and I usually go off the ground immediately, and I couldn't get up. So now I'm on my knees, and I'm like, why isn't my quad responding? And I didn't feel anything. And I'm like, what the heck? So my teammate, Weddle, comes in, hits me in the helmet, goes, heck of a play, man. Come on, get up so we can celebrate. I said, I can't. He was like, what you mean? He goes, what do you mean you can't? You don't get hurt. You never get hurt. What are you talking about? My foot had got caught right at the seam, I think, of the infield, outfield, and it was a clean bucket handle tear to lateral meniscus. It was 2.5 months, 2 to 3 months, something like that, of non-weight bearing. The next year, I'm still demanding a double team. I'm still getting doubled every play I'm on the field, and I'm talking to younger players. I think one example would be Denzel Perryman. It was us versus Arizona, and I'm telling him right now, I said, hey, they're going to double me. I'm going to do this and finish here. This is what you need to do. And he gets like 5 tackles that game on, and like 2 forced fumbles on kickoff. It's just that you don't get on special teams. It made me realize the impact you could truly have on other people if they can see it in their own lens.
Darrell re-injured the knee in 2016.
It wasn't quite healing, and my knee felt like it was shifting. My quad was shutting down randomly sometimes. I was like, all right, what's going on? And I kept hearing, like in my heart, like, prepare your house. I was like, for what? Am I coming back or am I done? Nah, prepare your house. And at that point, I kind of was like, all right, Lord, what is it that I was supposed to get out of playing football? What is it that you had for me or that I needed to learn?
Stuckey was released by the Chargers after he failed a physical.
What helped me in that moment is that I knew God built me to be a leader. And now, at that point, he needed me to be confident. I didn't need to be on the field to lead.
There was one unresolved issue.
I was angry in high school. Yeah. I was angry. Because it was on the shelf for so long. And I didn't realize I never dealt with it until I stopped playing. I had to address that anger that I didn't know I really had. When I was playing, I didn't have to acknowledge it because it came out in routine. It's like an automatic therapy release, like, except the was a hit. It was a collision. But when I finished playing, because of my principles, it never bled over anywhere else, except my wife was like, why you seem so short-tempered? And I'm like, where's this coming from? And the reason I realized why that was surfacing is because I hadn't answered the question yet. And the question that I hadn't answered was why? And the reality of it is what good is anger? What good is panic? We have to learn to clear our eyes, clear our hearts, and be open to what's next. And the things in the past, we can mourn them and be upset about them, or we can choose to own the day and do something about them. And for me, you ask why I'm not angry, and why did I choose not to live in anger? It's because it would only destroy the life I have, or the life I could have. Like my goal, I wanted to be a great father and husband more than I wanted to get revenge or be angry or justify my emotions. Emotions are great indicators, but terrible dictators.
In 2019, Darrell was inducted into KU's Ring of Honor. In 2021, he was named Director of Operations for Jayhawk football.
Like he could have stayed in San Diego. He could have moved wherever. But he chose to come back here to Lawrence, a place that he loves, and take care of a university that he loves.
He also takes care of the Jayhawk players, like former defensive tackle Sam Burt.
It was off season and it was fall camp, and I was competing with guys for a starting spot, and I was just like, Stuckey, like how do you go and compete with like a fellow teammate in like a good way? And he was just like, oh, like you just have confidence in yourself. Like it's not about them. Like, they're going to do their performance and you can't worry about their performance because that's only going to drag you down. And I had for so long put a lot of energy in like outwardly comparing myself to others. And that took a lot of my energy and was a big part of my playing anxiety. And so him having that like kind of clarifying confidence and how I can have confidence and just my preparation and play was really helpful for me.
The greatest joy is allowing somebody to unlock their fear and really step out and show their true talents.
He was our team chaplain and a couple other things just in different capacities.
Here again is Chris Hughes.
We went on like a kayaking trip where I kind of got lost. I get to the point where I was waiting for them for so long, I completely dried off, and Stuck's one of the first people I see. Now, some people you're kind of trying to figure out, okay, what type of energy am I going to get? Because he could be mad, like, oh my gosh, you stressed us all out. What's going on? All this. And he's like, the first thing he says is, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I don't have to call your mom. And I'm like, what? And he's like, this whole time we were like trying to think about what we were going to tell your mom if we couldn't find you, right? And just his ability to make stressful situations feel not so heavy, not so scary, is a gift that he has. His ability to connect, his ability to really make you feel safe.
He has a faith that people have a chance to do really good things.
I've never met somebody who's more selfless than him. He's gonna find a way to help you. He's gonna find a way to help you be better, even if it comes at a cost for him.
I want to be remembered for being somebody who was infectious towards life, like towards other people and towards building people.
Darrell Stuckey, Above and Beyond, was produced and written by Ben Hall, Whitney Sheffield, and Cleon Wall. Music and post-production by Finn Morrison. Make sure you watch BYUtv's Big Stories by logging on to BYUSN.com. Big Stories is a production of BYU Radio. Hey everyone, Cleon Wall here again. I'm inviting you to check out another BYU Radio podcast. It's called Deep Blue. It's where you get the true stories of BYU athletes and coaches from their own mouths. It's hosted by my colleague, Jason Shepard. Last season, they had great interviews on Deep Blue, including Cougar quarterback Gary Bohannon. He teared up quite a bit talking about his son and what it means for his boy to watch his dad play. Also, BYU swimmer Jordan Tiffany who quit swimming due to mental health struggles. He talked about how he was able to get back in the pool again. More great conversations for season number 3. BYU running back Hinckley Rapati will talk about his tear-filled journey to BYU. Former BYU tight end Chad Lewis, he's going to reflect back on that special 1996 BYU football season. And BYU basketball players Richie Saunders and Fuseni Traore discuss their unique relationship. It started way before they got to BYU. Please subscribe and listen to Deep Blue with Jason Shepard wherever you get podcasts, or check it out on the BYU radio app.